Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we're discussing a watch originally announced in 2018 from Salmon Kudoke of Germany. This is the Kudoke 1, a timepiece featuring his own movement. It is a classical style. Many of the esteemed watchmaker and engravers' previous watches were Baroque. Watches like the Kudoctopus, which had a giant skeletonized and engraved octopus on the dial, required a lot of confidence to wear. They were outrageous statements and highly conspicuous. This is more classical and understated. Now, the watch is also compact at 39 millimeters in stainless steel. It is 10.9 millimeters thick and 46.2 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. When I throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you could see that it's fairly easy to wear. Being only 46.2 across the wrist, I could recommend this for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference and maybe even 13 and a half. It's really an excellent fit and even viable for ladies. So I would consider this to be a unisex option, and you could see being under 11 millimeters thick, it will fit underneath the cuff, so no problems there. I would call it a sporty dress watch. The strap, which is handmade in Germany, is buttery soft and has this sort of saturated cobalt blue ostrich leather composition with a sheer cut side, a monotone stitch, a little bit of bolstering to add volume, and on the bottom, a buttery soft calfskin. You can see this one is a brand new Kudoke strap, and it's matched with a Kudoke buckle, which is steel like the case. Case is fairly simple. Tapered, integrated Calatrava-style lugs. We have a little flange on the case back, and there's also a flange to the bezel. Together, they define the mid-case, and then we have a couple of steps to the bezel itself before a little bit of a cambered box profile to the sapphire. We have what Kudoke calls an onion crown, which features polish and media blasting, and then a dial that includes a lovely satinated salmon center, hand-fired steel, hands, and then several different applied components that have been individually finished. So you can see this little ring for the small seconds, the track for the minutes and the hours, and the nameplate. These things are micro-beveled on their side and then satinated across the top and then inked, and then they're attached to the dial, so it's a multi-piece construction. Now you can also see there's a little Mobius strip or infinity symbol on the hour hand. You will also find it engraved into the balance cock on the reverse side. The watch sets beautifully. Not every small volume independent watch has a sturdy feeling crown when withdrawn, and a lot of them lack a small dead angle. The dead angle is the amount you turn the crown before the hand starts to move. Here, there is superb precision as the dead angle is pretty darn close to zero. And you can see I've got hacking seconds, which is not something every small independent thinks to include. Turning it over, you can see the Kudoke 1 movement. Now, it's important to note that this does share a general architecture and some parts with the Habring A11 from Habring of Austria, and that, in turn, shares a drivetrain layout that is the train and bridge geometry with the Valjoux 7750, albeit with all the chronographs and automatic winding components removed. So this is distantly a 7750, more recently Habring related, but in the end, it is very much Kudoke's own movement because of the shape and the finishing of the bridges. This is definitely his own. You will not see a Habring that looks like this. The inspiration is from vintage 19th century marine chronometers and pocket watches made by the likes of F.A. Lange and Moritz Grossman, and also the still relevant English watchmakers of the period. And so this draws from that sort of pocket watch aesthetic, and you can really see it. It's very different from the look of a modern wristwatch caseback. We have a finish, this satination, this blasted profile, this frosting, because in the period being referenced, there would have been no Côte de Genève or glasuta stripes. You can see that the click itself is large for a click. All the screw heads are either blued or black polished, and the bluing is done in a kiln with heat, not with some sort of a chemical dye. You can see that the click is beveled on its side, satinated on its top. We have a satination circular on the crown wheel core, and then solarization on the rim, the outer moving part of the crown wheel. You can also see that the two locating pins for the crown wheel core have been polished on their head. And then we have a double solarization on the ratchet wheel that sits atop the barrel. We have a freehand engraved balance cock that joins with the balance. We have a nameplate that's been engraved by hand because Salmon Kudoke, in the end, will always hang his hat on his skills as an engraver. He's a great watchmaker, but engraving is what first brought him to notoriety in the watch space. So this is freehand engraved, satinated, and beveled. You can also see that we have some skeletonization of the enormous 3/4 plate that covers all this. If you've ever assembled a Value 7750, you know how hard it can be to get that big mono plate into place. And so you can see it's been hollowed out a little bit to show you the train leading down to the escapement. Black polished lever, black polished escape wheel, satination on the bridge itself. You can see that the beveling is world class, and we do actually have some fairly well-defined, not super sharp, but fairly well-defined interior angles. The beveling is top-notch, probably started mechanically, but finished and rounded by hand. And this degree of beveling you won't even see on most mainstream AP and FP Journe watches. Now, technically speaking, it's a manual winder with a 46-hour power reserve. It pivots on 18 joules, and it is a broad movement at just a little bit over 30 millimeters. It fills the case back, which is a really good look for a 39 millimeter watch, and it beats away at 4 hertz. So although it has a pocket watch look, remember it's 7750 based, so a 4 hertz beat rate, and just an awesome effort, fantastic value for the money, handcrafted, very scarce. This is only the first Kudoke one I've encountered, and I see everything. The watch is surprisingly 50 meters water resistant, which is even a little bit more than you'll get on a standard dress watch. Those are typically 20 to 30, so a bit more margin for error and peace of mind for the owner. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.